So we saw, obviously, a Sunday practice. Was that something scheduled?
Yes.
Or was that, okay.
No, it was weird. They just did it on their own. No, it was scheduled. We practiced Sunday last week to get a day ahead, and we like that schedule a little bit, so we'll see what happens.
Okay, so does that mean that you have to take a different day off during the week?
Take Thursday off. Right?
Thursday off, okay. All right. So going back and look at the film, can you tell us about some of the kind of deeper takeaways, particularly when it comes to quarterbacks?
Yeah, I thought both quarterbacks played really well. We had three interceptions. Two of them they were being hit, so there was a protection breakdown up front. But I thought for the first time for both those guys for extensive action, I thought they did a nice job. We continue to build off of what those guys did. For Dante, it was his first experience. Obviously, Ethan's played for us before, so you know what he can do. But to see Dante play his first game is how we handle all of it, because we don't have, unlike the NFL, we don't have preseason. We don't have opportunities to scrimmage with other teams or practice with other teams. So for his first action against our team, we were really pleased with it.
So will you go with kind of the same arrangement? I know you said that Colin will play against San Diego State, but otherwise will it be kind of the same arrangement?
Yeah, we haven't talked anything about depth or where we are. We always do that at the end of the week because you don't know what goes on during the week. So for us to have a conversation on Sunday of, hey, what's the rotation going to be on Saturday, means nothing because something can occur between now and Saturday. So we always talk rotation at any position, whether it be inside linebacker, D-line, quarterback, wide receiver. At the end of the week, we know exactly what to do.
Well, you did a week ago.
No, we didn't.
You told us Ethan would start.
I told you Ethan would start, and
Yeah.
then at the end of the week, we would talk about our rotation.
Okay, all right. Well, I was just talking about.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that. That was just the opening game, so you announced who the starters going to be.
Okay.
Rotation will get to, those guys all take reps with the ones, so we'll get to rotation at the end of the week like we do with every position.
Is there a point where you want to get a permanent one quarterback to play in the game?
We want to win games, so that's everything we do, and our decisions are made at winning games. So we'll see how that expresses itself.
You mentioned after the game, you want to kind of take a look at the analytics as far as, just because of the number of plays being shortened. Has that process begun?
Yeah, we've already looked at it. I think drives are down by 10% throughout college football. So you just have to deal with how those numbers express themselves. It's still a small sample size, so I don't think you can really say this is exactly what it is. But I think after week 0 and week 1, number of plays are down, drives are down by 10%. So we're just going to analyze what it is, and those are the rules, and adapt.
What are the different ways you can kind of, eke out a competitive advantage that way? Is it running more tempo? Is it rotating?
It depends on what
players?
your team is. Like there's not a set way. You can say run more tempo, but if your team's not very good and you go 3 and out, then that's not a smart thing to do. So I think it just what you have for weapons and how you use them and how you deploy them is really the essential thing to that. So the goal isn't to run more plays than the other team. The goal is to win the game. So that may change on a weekly basis. In some games, it may be we need to really amp it up here score-wise because it's going to be a high-scoring game and it's going to be a back-and-forth game, or it's going to be a game where maybe we're trying to control the clock and control the ball and keep the ball away from other people. So I think there's never an overarching, like you don't come out of there and say, hey, who had more plays today? The ultimate goal is who won the football game. So, but there's just some adjustment that has to go on because we're not getting as many snaps as we used to in how we did it. We had 4 drives in the first half. We had 7 in the second half, but there were 2 turnovers on both sides. So I think the turnovers led to even more drives in the second half than in the first half. So you're looking at a 8 or 9 play drive. That's a different concept in terms of what you're normally used to. Is really what it is. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just different. So
Has there been has there been a conversation about shortening some rotations maybe?
You got to look at everything. So I think that's all part of the process. And, we'll adapt because I'd be very surprised if the NCAA said tomorrow that, hey, we're going to change it and go back. So that's not going to happen. So it is what it is. That's our job is to adapt to it. So.
I think you used the word situationally with Colin after the game. What does situationally mean as far as using it?
I don't recall what that means.
Like, certain packages.
What are those things? Is that what I said?
Yeah, you said the plan had been to use him situationally.
Yeah. And, I'm sorry. So you're talking about last week?
Yeah.
This week we haven't talked about that.
Right.
Yeah, we had a couple things that we were talking about doing, and then those situations didn't come up early enough to where we were to get him in. So we'll go back and analyze how we're going to do it this week and make sure that he gets in.
Can you tell us what those situations would have been?
No.
Okay.
Talking about the clock rules, was there any kind of simulation of those new stoppages before the first game of the season? Maybe
Yeah, but we don't
adjusting
play
that
a
out?
full game,
Yeah.
so it's expressed itself over the course of a game. But we use a play clock every single day, and we actually ramp the play clock up. We never go to a 40-second play clock. We always go to the 25-second play clock, so our guys have to get on the ball. So we were ready for that. It's just the course of the game, and when you look up and say, holy crap, the first half is almost over. We've run 30 plays. When it was a back and forth game, it wasn't like we had short drives. All of our drives were 6+ drives, 6+ play drives. So we drove the ball and held on to the football. But it's just different. So.
Talking about the quarterbacks, Chase Griffin's been here the longest in that room. What kind of leadership and veteran presence does
Yeah,
he provide?
Chase does an unbelievable job from a leadership standpoint. Any role that we ask him to emulate on this team, he does. A lot of times sometimes he'll go down if there's a real good quarterback on the other edge. He did a really good job simulating Grayson McCall last week for our defensive guys, and does a good job of that. He's integral in game day in terms of signaling and things like that, and anything we need Chase to do, he does.
Off the field, Chase has been involved in a lot of using his platform to support the community, most recently with LA Food Bank. What kind of impact has that activism had on the culture of the program?
He's had a huge impact. I think him understanding that using his platform as a UCLA football player and the people that he can touch and his outreach, I think he's been tremendous that way. I think he's the model for when you look at what NIL is supposed to be. How Chase does it and how Chase uses it, I think is what our understanding of what NIL should be. And he's been amazing that way. He's a special young man, and we're glad he's part of what we got going here.
One more thing about the quarterbacks. Ethan said after the game that it was a little bit hard for him to feel like to get in a rhythm with that arrangement. Is there any concern about that?
Yeah, there's always a concern about that, but our job is to win the football game, so we're going to go with that.
Go ahead.
Sorry, with the quarterback competition, I guess if one guy does start to separate himself, what's your criteria for evaluating that? I mean, is it a know it when you see it type thing, or do you have objective kind of standards you're looking at?
Yeah, it's just who moves the team the best and who gives us the best opportunity to win, and are we moving the offense with that person in the game.
What's the best way to clean up offsides other than not to commit them?
Same thing. Well, it's two things. I mean, you had 10 tackles for loss and 4 sacks. So we have a very, very aggressive defensive line. So there's also the, hey, let's just sit back and not get offsides, but then maybe do you not get 10 tackles for loss and 4 sacks? I think there's a fine line, and the amount of offsides we had was unacceptable. But you'd rather err on us guys being really aggressive and attacking than to just sit back. There's a great way to do it, is back them up 3 yards and have them sit there and wait for the ball snap and catch everybody. But I don't think you have 10 tackles for loss, and I don't think you have 4 sacks if you're playing that way. So we're always going to be aggressive on the front. That's what Kaika coaches. That's what Danton wants, and that's what all of us want in this football program. Now we have to temper it and be better, that we're not getting those self-inflicted wounds. But there's a catch-22. Like you said, there's a way to say, hey, we're not going to have any offsides, and then you come out of the game is, how was your production on D-line? It wasn't very good, but we didn't have any offsides today. So it's that fine line if we really want to be aggressive. And I thought those guys really were. I thought they set the tone for what happened there. Jay Toya, I think, played as good a game as he's had since his win. Was really impressed with him and Gary inside, and then the production we got from all of our edge players, Carl, Latu, the Murphs. I think it was those guys were really the difference in terms of what we did up there. But we also got to be able to make sure that we can play with an edge, but we don't want to go over the edge.
A couple guys I want to check on. Like Cahill was not at practice yesterday, and then also John Bonds and Titus didn't seem to play in the game.
Titus was unavailable. John was available. Ale was not here yesterday. We'll see what the stats is today. So he was here at practice, but he wasn't on the field.
Okay.
Staying with the defense, as far as the rest of the defense goes, what were some of the other bigger takeaways on film?
I just thought their aggressiveness, and when you could have that much production, 10 TFLs and 4 sacks against that football team, I think that's the one thing you look at. That's a good offensive football team. It has been for the last couple of years. That quarterback was the best in FCS history with 78 touchdowns and 8 interceptions in his career, and we picked him off twice. That's never been done to Grayson before. So a lot of it, it was total team defense. So it was a great rush and good coverage. I thought Jalen made a really good play. We got a tip ball and a rush and a quarterback scramble, and then Hump made the big play on the sideline. So I think it was a combination of both that they were happy with. But we have to clean up. We do have to clean up the penalties, and if we can do that, we had 8 on the day, but 4 of them were offsides and 2 of them were illegal procedures. That's 6 of them. Those are administrative penalties that happen before the snap. So if we can get those cleaned up, then I think we're playing clean football. That's what our goal is we get ready for San Diego State this week.
What did you see on those plays where they got through on the pressure and then leading to the picks for your?
Yeah, just a missed block by one guy.
Okay.
So it wasn't a schematic thing. It was just maybe a technique thing that we just need to clean up. And it wasn't one guy for every quarterback pressure. It was, you may have made one guy may have made one mistake the entire game, but it's glaring because the quarterback gets hit. So technique things that we need to just clean up. So we'll address them. We've addressed them yesterday in meetings and on the field, and we'll continue to work on them.
Special teams question. RJ Lopez was doing the field goals and PATs, and Lesnar was doing the kickoffs. Is that the setup that we can expect to see, or is that still?
That's always an ongoing competition, but I thought RJ did a really nice job, and I thought Blake hit the ball really well, except for the opening kickoff. I think he probably got a little excited in his first game, and that one went out of bounds. But after that, I thought he hit it really well. And then RJ won the kicking competition during preseason camp, and then Blake won the kickoff competition during camp. So that's kind of where we are, and we'll see how that's. But we're always going to evaluate. We chart everything every single day, and then we go. But I was pleased with the 2 field goals and all the extra points out of RJ.
Are those different enough type kicks that you would rather not have the same guy doing both, or is it no big deal?
There's a different mechanics. There's a really you're a 1-step, 2-step approach when you're kicking the field goal is different than if you're kicking off, because in a kickoff you got a big lead up time. The accuracy part of the field goal is obviously a little bit more important than the accuracy of the kickoff. The kickoff can go a little bit thing, but distance is the biggest thing in the kickoff. So, and they're both really good at both. So that difference in competition isn't drastic. I think Blake may have been like 66 yards on his kickoffs, and RJ's 64. RJ's been a great kickoff guy for us, but we just played it out and looked at it analytically of who gives us the best. So Blake got that, but then RJ did a better job in terms of percentage of kicks and where we were, depending on whether it's 20 to 29, 30 to 39, 40 to 49 as we go through camp. So, but that's always an ongoing competition. But I thought both those guys played really well, and then I really think really impressed. We only punted twice, but I thought Will Powers was outstanding for us. So we had 2 punts down inside the 10-yard line. One of them was a plus 50 punt where he did a nice job of placing, and the other one was a bomb. That they fielded inside the 10, and we got it stopped in the 1-yard line with our coverage. But I was really impressed with how Will punted in his first game for us.
What about Colson returning kickoffs like that?
Yeah, we got to do a better job up front. I don't think anybody, didn't matter who was returning kickoffs the other day. We didn't get a chance to get a good start, so we didn't show up some things. Our front 7 were blocking in terms of guys coming down. Because we had some guys free that weren't supposed to be free, so that was. Didn't matter who the kickoff returning that wasn't inside right now. We got to clear back on that.
Barber's doing the place holding. Is that just a product of having the experience of doing it before in past seasons?
He's the best. He's the best we have at holding right now. Spence really works very hard on it. The kickers are really comfortable with him.
Travel restrictions with non-conference games that go over the conference games as far as how many you can bring in?
No, they're not. So we'll bring whoever's eligible to play. We'll go with us to the city.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
thanks,
you.
guys.
Appreciate it.